You meet someone on a dating app, agree to a date in a public place. You get there and figure out almost immediately there is no connection. You say your goodbyes after suffering through an hour of him talking to you. A day later, he's at your door with a weapon and a promise. My name is M. William Phelps. I'm an investigative journalist and the true crime author of close to 50 books. I've dedicated the past 20 years of my life to helping families of the missing and murdered. Join me. We're crossing the line. The Colonial Grand apartment building at Canyon Point, north of downtown Austin, Texas, is a large complex of rather tidy and well taken care of residences in a pleasant area of the city. East of Lake Travis, an interesting body of water that, from a bird's eye view, resembles a dragon with a very long tail. Canyon Point is popular among young working class and college students. In the very early hours of March 31st, 2021, several residents from the Colonial Grand's Building Number 5 call into 911 to report loud noises coming from a specific apartment. Most report the noise as someone kicking in a door. There's some screaming as well. Someone else is yelling. And one caller, living next door, says she heard what sounded like a verbal disturbance going on through the walls, right before there was a loud crack, like a gunshot. This sort of domestic crime in Austin has a ratio of 1 in 186 households. Property crime is pretty rampant in the city, with murder and other serious violent crime, however, fairly rare. Still, 2020 was a deadly year in Austin, with a record 48 murders, more than any other time within the past 20 years. Numbers give us an idea, a starting point, if you will. I think we focus in this country too much on data with regard to homicide, actually. The numbers don't reflect the reality that if one of those murders takes place within your community or inner circle, that data is nothing more than meaningless ink on a page. So it's important to put into perspective that one homicide within a community and a family changes those lives forever. All that data does, in my opinion, is maybe help real estate assessors and civic budgets. Huston-Tillotson University, closer to downtown Austin, is about 20 minutes south of the Colonial Grand. The school was the first higher learning institution in the city. A gorgeous campus with a reputation for producing some of the most successful postgraduates in the state. 21-year-old Natalie Cox is a senior at Huston-Tillotson. She has long, black, curly hair flowing halfway down her torso. Natalia wears trendy glasses with large frames. She has this sunny disposition that anyone within her circle would say is exactly the type of person she is. Kind, gentle, caring, smart. Natalia has been studying very hard at the university, majoring in biology, and focused on her dream of becoming an exotic animal veterinarian. One internship she held for a time during the past 4 years was with Texas Parks and Wildlife as a researcher. She spent 2 years there studying, learning, mentoring, chasing that goal of understanding everything she could about animals. If you ask Natalia's core group of friends, they will tell you Natalia has a few simple rules. Make people's lives better by making them laugh and doing kind things for them. At the same time, making sure people understand and strive for diversity and community outreach. One of Natalia's friends later says, Natalia is the type of person who stops for homeless people in need and offers to do what she can to help. So Natalia is driven by the core idea of making the world a better place, be it through her work, veganism, philanthropy, volunteering, or just sharing the love you have within you with others, no matter who they are. If everyone did their little part, Natalia seemed to understand perhaps more than the average person, collectively, people can affect huge change. Natalia was not into the dating scene by any means, but she did go out from time to time when someone she met seemed to be a good match. Like a lot of her friends and peers, as well as a lot of people these days, Natalia dabbled with the dating apps. On March 28th, 3 days before that 911 call comes in, reporting that commotion, including what one person thinks is a gunshot, going on at the Grand Colonial, Natalia heads out to a place called Arlo's, which is closer to her school than the apartment she shares with a roommate. When Natalia first connected with 24-year-old Henry Watson, he seemed like an okay guy, as far as Natalia could tell. Good-looking, in shape, with a handsome smile, and a seemingly charming disposition. But what can one truly tell by texting with someone without meeting up? There's only so much. So Natalia is realistic and maybe even optimistic about the date she sets with Henry. Anyone treading in the murky waters of a dating app knows that the in-person meetup can go either way. Someone who comes across one way on paper, meaning their dating app profile and a few texts, can be the polar opposite in person. It's the risk everyone using the app takes. The dating era we are now in is rather perplexing and different in so many ways than that at any other time in our history. We can meet people from the confines of our living rooms, scores of different people in a single sitting, simply scrolling through profiles on our phones. Pew Research reports that 30% of adults in the United States use a dating app. Think about that. 3 out of 10 adults have online dating profiles. Many of those users, a majority of which are younger women, report being harassed and sent unsolicited, explicit messages on the dating app. So getting into the dating app ring can become like entering the wild, wild west, especially for a woman. I think it goes without saying, yet needs to be said, that a person can write anything he or she wants to on a dating app profile, turn themselves into an entirely different person, in fact. And it's no secret that many users choose those people they communicate with mostly on looks alone, at least at first. So, in that regard, we could say we've become a dating society discarding and choosing human beings based solely on the way they look. Not everyone, I should know, but a majority the research tends to support. Social media apps in general invite harassment and abnormal behaviors and allow the user the opportunity to be bolder than he or she might be in person. We all know this. We've all experienced it. We've all seen it on social media apps. In that same study, Pew says that 60%, a huge number, of female dating app users between 18 and 34 years old say that someone they communicated with on a dating app, after they told that person that they were definitely not interested in them continued to contact them. The same percentage of women also reported that they had been sent an explicit image or message they did not ask for. Just a random picture of you-know-what, or some sort of graphic, sexually explicit text. The one part of the study I found most interesting is that while most of the dating app users go into it with the thought of, where else can I meet someone today but online? The truth is that the dating apps themselves have disrupted in a big way the older, more traditional ways of meeting someone organically out in the world. And finally, an alarming finding. Half of the women polled in the study think that dating apps are an unsafe way to meet people, yet it doesn't stop most of them from continuing to go out on dates. And overall, only 3% of American adults think online dating is safe. The bottom line is that it's a crapshoot. You do not know who you are meeting, no matter what they have told you or what you think your instinct is telling you about that person. I think that for women, especially, caution, caution, caution should be your best course of action in the immediate phase of an online relationship. I wrote about this in a book I published a few years ago, Surviving Dirty John, the true story of Deborah Newell, who met a psychopath, Dirty John, on the dating app Our Time. After researching and interviewing people for that book, I suggested that women get the man's phone number first without giving up theirs before they talk or go out. Take that number and do some background checking on the dude. It's not an invasion of privacy. No one should feel bad or guilty about doing this. As a woman, you have every right to check out the person you intend to, by yourself, meet, even if it's in a public place. A simple search on the right website can save a lot of unneeded drama and trouble, and even a dangerous situation. Or just give you the basic facts about someone, like, for example, number one, if the dude is lying about superficial things, age, name, town where he lives, etc. If someone you are planning to meet is lying about those menial aspects of life anyone can easily find out, you might want to swipe left in real life and move on. My intention here is not to bore anyone in this episode with online dating information and warnings, or do a smackdown of online dating. I don't want to scare anyone from online dating. But I like to, when I run into certain cases, use the opportunity to help you make the safest decisions you can. A bit of education on a topic can be helpful. If we can't learn from the murder stories we read about, listen to, or watch, I think we are, in a small way, dishonoring that victim's memory. When Natalie Cox walks into Arlo's and lays eyes on Henry, I'm only speculating here, but something tells me immediately that she is not interested in this guy. Many of you who have dabbled in online dating know exactly what I am talking about. You set up the date, text a little beforehand, maybe chat on the phone, think it will go all right, and yet as soon as you meet in person, you can just feel that there's zero energy, zero connection. It's just not present in the room between the two of you. And so you suffer through the date, or you make up an excuse and check out, all the while telling yourself that this is part of the online dating game. Natalia and Henry are two different people, and I think Natalia understands this immediately upon meeting the guy. He's rough around the edges, from a different school of life, and it just didn't come through in his profile. The thing about Natalia, however, which I have gleaned from the public record, is that she is not the type of person to be unkind, rude, or hurt somebody's feelings if she can help it. So no matter how she feels about Henry Watson upon first meeting him, she understands that some guys need to be let down slowly in different ways. According to a later warrant associated with this case, Natalia and Henry set up a second date for a day later at her apartment. I do believe this is more of Henry pushing Natalia to have him over and her caving into it in that moment, knowing that she will come up with an excuse beforehand and blow him off before the date even happens. In fact, before Henry is scheduled to come over, Natalia decides no, this is not what she wants. She is not interested in dating Henry Watson. There is something about him, something strange and alarming, and she doesn't want anything to do with him. So just before that date, she texts Henry and tells him she's not feeling well. He responds with a question. Are you okay? Natalia gets a weird vibe from that text. It's not as though he is checking in with her and how she's feeling physically. It's more of the idea that this dude doesn't know her well enough to ask, are we okay? Not long after that text, Henry shows up at her apartment anyway. After getting a text that Henry has arrived, Natalia double locks her door. Then she hears a knock. Is that you at my door? Natalia texts Henry. Open the door, is his only response. It feels firm and controlling. Natalia is scared, so she FaceTimes Henry. He on one side of the door, she on the other. That double bolt lock between them. Maybe she can talk him down and get him to leave. She doesn't know this dude. Just met him once. Henry answers the FaceTime, waving a handgun in front of the FaceTime camera, as if to threateningly reiterate, open the door. Open your door, he says again, this time adding, or I will shoot it open. Natalia's roommate is there inside the apartment with her. Natalia calls out to her, phone the police, now. Let's take a break here and come right back. Important point to make in this case is that Natalie Cox had matched with Henry Watson just 2 days, 48 hours, before this man shows up at her door with a gun demanding to be let in. She met him in a public place for a first date, made a second date with him at her apartment, likely out of pity and feeling sorry for him, but then changed her mind and specifically told him she was feeling ill and did not want him to come over. So Natalia did everything right in this situation. Yet he shows up anyway, with a weapon, no less. Natalia was born and raised in Melissa, Texas, and has 2 siblings. Although she had talked about becoming a veterinarian and seemed to be on that path, her family later says Natalia had made the courageous and noble decision to focus her studies after graduation on becoming a plastic surgeon so she could help victims who suffer from any type of disfigurement. This is who Natalia is. Someone always thinking about other human beings and how to make their lives, not her own, better. Quote, Natalia was known for educating the community on topics of fitness, veganism, sustainability, and minimalism, one report says about her. She passionately spoke on diversity within her hometown community of Melissa, Texas, and recently found joy in making customized wigs for cancer patients that lost their hair during chemo treatment. So even at 21 years old, Natalia is teaching people, most of whom are far older, how to be better human beings and strive to help others. What might be a true crime cliche at this point, the world was a better place with Natalie Cox in it. As Henry Watson is on FaceTime, waving his gun at Natalia, demanding she open the door and let him in, her roommate gets hold of police, and by now, several officers are on the way. As that is happening, Natalia spends a few moments talking a bit of sense into Henry, seemingly calming him down. So much so, Henry takes off. I have to assume the mention of police being on their way likely contributed to Henry getting the hell out of there. Natalia had gotten Henry's license plate number and reports to police that he drives a blue Honda Civic. Part of this was because of the rules the apartment complex had in place, a strict policy about visitors and documenting their vehicles. Police arrive and Natalia gives them Henry's name and vehicle information. As police are talking to Natalia, Henry actually FaceTimes her again. The officer tells her to hold on 1 minute before she answers. Then, after the officer points his body camera at the screen to record the call, he gives her the go-ahead. Natalia answers. Henry comes on the screen and begins to talk about how upset he is. Quote, "We had something going on," he says. "You are playing with my emotions." This is obsessive behavior, clearly. There are no emotions involved, Henry. Natalia does not know you. She met you one time for a drink, and that's it. Yet, in Henry's mind, they have some sort of a relationship going on. Shaken, scared, crying, Natalia tells Henry, "I am really busy with schoolwork right now and will call and meet you later on." Then she hangs up. A short time later, Henry calls back. Natalia doesn't answer. She then explains to police how scared she actually is of this guy. So it is decided that she will go stay somewhere else because of how frightened she is that Henry Watson will be waiting outside for her at some point and will not leave her alone. Police wait while Natalia packs a bag, and she and her roommate are then escorted out of the apartment complex by police so they can go stay somewhere else. 2 nights later, after receiving those 911 calls I mentioned at the top of the episode, police arrive at Natalia's apartment again, this time with weapons drawn, and they slowly walk toward her door. The door into her apartment is open. Upon a closer look, officers can tell the door had actually been kicked open. This is not good. As they enter, they can see a female lying on the floor. There is blood all around her. It appears as though the woman has been shot several times. Within 10 minutes of arriving at the scene, EMS show up and pronounce the woman dead. There is nothing they can do to save her. Underneath her body is her iPhone. And it's inside that iPhone where investigators begin to learn what had actually transpired leading up to the murder of Natalie Cox. Be right back. We all risk a lot to find love. Not only our emotions, our time, our overall view of humanity, perhaps, but in some instances, our safety and mortality. And I want to be clear that it is very rare that we might run into someone like Henry Watson. Natalie Cox did everything she should have done in this situation. From the only date she went on with Henry Watson to making sure her roommate knew where she was and then not allowing Henry in that second night after meeting him to telling him in the gentlest way she knew how that she was busy and could not see him. She gave the guy every indication possible that she was not interested. The underlying sentiment here is, and anyone in the dating pool knows this, I'm not interested in you. That's what Natalia was saying to Henry Watson. Most people take the hint and move on. Others, like Henry Watson, don't. They instead develop some sort of twisted idea in their mind that they can force a relationship with someone who doesn't want it. Natalia had blocked Henry's number from her phone after that FaceTiming ordeal. At 12:46 a.m. on March 25th, the day Natalia was murdered, someone claiming to be Henry's father texted her and told her that Henry was suicidal, that he really needed to talk to her about what had happened between them. That's called coercive control, my friends. It's clear in the language. Between them. There was no between them. There was no relationship or even friendship. This was all in Henry's mind. Do not contact me again, Natalia texted back, clear and concise and direct. There it is. Do not contact me again. Period. There had been several texts before that final one Natalia had received from the same number. She had not answered any of them. She was also receiving texts from other numbers, all with the same tone and desperate plea. Meet me to talk about this. Don't bring the police. I just want to talk. Never fall for the I just want to talk line. There is always a sinister plan behind those words. I just want to talk. At 8:04 a.m. that morning, one text Natalia received said this, quote, "Say, you fucking with the wrong fam. Call the cops on my bro again and we gon' have probs. Feel me?" Natalia called the police after that text. She was being terrorized by someone she met one time for a few hours. On March 31st, not even a week since Natalia had met Henry Watson or even knew he existed, Henry is arrested for her murder while sleeping in his car parked at another apartment complex not far away. Inside his vehicle, police find a 9mm handgun and believe it is the weapon he used to murder Natalia. An issue arises later on in this case, which Natalia's family brings up in a lawsuit filed against the apartment complex she lived in. Based on that lawsuit, Natalia and her roommate went to the management of the complex. After that night, the police escorted them from their apartment. They asked management to relocate them in another apartment because of the situation with Henry they were now involved in. Look, it made sense. And some reports claim there were open apartments within the same complex. So they're not asking the complex to over-accommodate them. They're simply saying, let us move into another empty apartment. The lawsuit contends that the complex said Natalia and her roommate would need to pay a new deposit application fee, a new security deposit, new administrative fee, and 2 months' rent for failure to give the complex 60 days' notice that they were moving out. It's one of the most outrageously capitalistic, immoral things I have heard from a company in a situation where they can rise to the occasion and help someone in great need. It tells me that Natalia and her roommate were not human beings in need of help, but more of a product there to make them money. One more rent check coming in every month to add to the whole. Natalia's parents in that same lawsuit say Natalia warned the complex management that she was facing an imminent threat. And they believe her murder could have been prevented had she been able to relocate, which meant essentially just swapping out apartments. The other problem involves a claim that the Austin Police Department did not assign a detective to Natalia's case. After the incident in which Henry first shows up with that gun and demands she open the door, until 6 days after that incident. The reasoning is that the incident didn't involve an actual physical assault, so Natalia was never given what is called a pink pamphlet, a packet of resources and instructions and phone numbers for obtaining a restraining order, services available, court advocates, etc., which is customarily given out to victims of domestic abuse. My God, look, Henry was threatening to shoot her door in and waved a gun at her on FaceTime. Is that not violent enough for them to hand out a freaking packet of papers to the woman? Come on. Then this. The gun Henry used to murder Natalia is connected to another murder. Earlier that same day, Natalia was murdered in Austin, not far away. The victim, a male, Garrett Gammon. Spent shell casings at both scenes match. Sightings of Henry's car were also reported at both scenes. Before that murder, Henry had told several people he was going on a rampage and would be seen. I intend on committing some criminal acts, Henry had texted several people before Garrett and Natalia were murdered. So was he going for fame? Is that what he meant by, I will be seen? You know, it's as if the rejection made him feel like he's not being seen. But look, we all get rejected every day. In July 2021, Henry Watson was found incompetent to stand trial in Natalia's case. He was sentenced to undergo inpatient treatment at a mental health institution. He was also ordered to be further evaluated. His case right now is a mystery as to where it stands. But I will say one thing. I can't believe he was found incompetent to stand trial. I would love to see the psychological reports connected to this case. My daughter was such an inspiration, Lester Cox later tells KVUE ABC News. There is one photo of Natalia from the day she graduated high school I want to mention. She has a smile from ear to ear. She is wearing blue jeans, a t-shirt, her graduation cap, and a sash with Class of 2018 knitted into it. This photo is like millions more on the mantles of families all over the country. A young woman, kind and loving and caring, ready to take on the world and become a productive member of society we so desperately need today in what feels like very hard times. And then some maniac comes along and takes that from not only Natalia's family, but us, the people who would benefit from Natalia's presence in the world, if only in ways we'd never even know. So we are left to wonder why. How does this happen? How is there any balance in a universe that does this to Natalia and her friends and her family? Questions we will never know the answers to, I guess. But we still need to ask them, I think. Right? Thanks again for listening. I need your help. Please subscribe to Crossing the Line wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget, leave a review of the show, especially on Apple Podcasts. And log on to crossingtheline.biz or mwilliamphelps.com to contact me and suggest cases, or just say hi. And look for me across all social media platforms using the @ symbol and my name, M. William Phelps. Thank you for supporting this show. I am allowed to do it because of you, and that truly means more to me than I can say. Be back here next week. Please, be safe, be aware. Sources for this episode include Garrett Gammon, murder affidavit. State of Texas versus Henry Keith Watson Jr., application for arrest warrant. Texas law falls short in protecting Natalie Cox, KVUE, by Bryce Newberry, November 18th, 2021. Family seeks justice for killing of Houston Tillotson student by Richard Lewis, October 23rd, 2024. Crossing the Line is executive produced by M. William Phelps, LLC, and Matthew Valentinas, Mom's Basement Management. Written by me, M. William Phelps. Audio mastering and mixing by Matt Russell. Original music written and performed by Thomas Mooney, Tom Phelps, and Matt Russell.